doubted it. They would not have humiliated me.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting of August 15th, 2022. Can I ask the city clerk to please call the roll?
Mayor Flores is absent tonight. Deputy Mayor Tharp.
Present.
And Councilmember Noble.
Here.
And Councilmember Dugo.
Here.
Councilmember Diaz.
Here.
Councilmember Bousquet.
Here.
And Deputy Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. With the mayor's absent this evening, I'd like to make a suggestion that we move agenda items 11 and 12 to the September 14th meeting.
I have a comment to make about that,
Yes.
if you don't mind. I would like to make a suggestion that we don't do it at all. I don't know any other circumstance in which a manager is reviewed in front of their subordinates, number one. The city manager's contract doesn't explicitly say that this had to be done publicly. I think we all speak to Mrs. McHugh and tell her our expectations. We could hand in the reviews. I don't see any reason to do it publicly unless there's a problem, unless there's something like a big raise that we need a consensus on. So I move that we do not do these routinely as a public event.
Deputy
Second.
Mayor,
Ms. Dugo?
you know, we discussed this last year, and I'm in 1,000% in agreement with Councilwoman Bousquet. Personnel matters do not belong here. I totally agree.
Thank you. So is it an appropriate time to make a motion? I guess we have to put it on another agenda. Christie?
Did you want a motion
defer to Christie on that one? If
I think your normal course of action is when someone brings up an issue that's not on the agenda, you guys add it as a discussion item on the next regular agenda, and then go from there with it. That's my practice.
Yeah.
That I've seen that you guys do if it's not already on the agenda as an item or a discussion.
It is on the, the item is on the agenda. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
But so can we move 11 and 12 to a future meeting and then have the discussion item added for the 14th regarding the reviews? Does that sound fair?
That's fine.
Second.
That doesn't sound clear to me.
Okay.
I had the impression that it was going to be removed. I don't feel like it's being removed in any way.
I think the city attorney said we should have it as a discussion item. So but it's already on the agenda this evening.
We can't vote on discussion items.
Correct. That's why the suggestion is to move this to a date in the future, so we can have that discussion.
Can I ask the city attorney a question?
Absolutely.
This is just something that the council has been doing. Do we need, other than an agreement of the council members to say, no, we don't want this, on the DS, or would we need a future, do we need a procedure? I mean, HR does their evaluations, I'm assuming, in private. I'm assuming the city manager does her evaluations in private.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I would like to read the city manager's contract.
Yeah, I know. I
You created it.
yeah.
It says that we meet individually, then the council or mayor may bring up the manager's performance at a public meeting and recommend a higher or lower increase than the general employees. So we really don't need to do anything unless we're going to make a motion to give her a higher increase, which is what we did last time, or fire her, which is not going to happen anytime in my lifetime anyway.
Agree.
Okay, so
So, I guess to respond to the question, what I would like to do, because I wasn't aware of this potentially happening, is I want to double check the charter and the code and also the language in the contract, just to make sure there's no other requirement for some type of public evaluation. Assuming there isn't, with this on the agenda, then your options would appear to be to pull it off and push it for a later item with it as a discussion whether or not to even have these. And at that point, we can check to see if there's any other requirement, and then it would just be left up to the discussion and consensus.
okay, I'm not going to repeat that. I approve the agenda with that.
Okay.
With that caveat.
So motion to approve the agenda as modified by the city attorney by Ms. Bousquet,
Second.
second by Councilmember Dugo. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0. All right, comments from the public on agenda items only. Anybody from the public wishing to speak on an agenda item, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. All right, seeing none, moving on to special business. There are none for this evening. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Approval by Councilmember Dugo, and I've missed the second. Councilmember Diaz and Councilmember Dugo second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that motion carries 5-0. Regular agenda, public hearing. Can I ask the city ordinance to please read ordinance 2022? City clerk, sorry. Been a long day. City clerk to please read the ordinance 2022-01.
Ordinance 2022-01, second reading, authorizing the City of Green Acres to execute an interlocal service boundary and joint planning agreement between the City of Green Acres and Palm Beach County to coordinate future land use, public facilities, and services in advance of annexation pursuant to Chapter 171, Part 2, Florida statutes, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
And good evening. We've got Ms. Kara Irwin Ferris presenting.
Good evening. For the record, Kara Irwin Ferris to present to you tonight the interlocal service boundary agreement. We did have some absences at the last meeting, so if you want me to go into any further detail, otherwise I can just do a quick overall for the council.
I think we were all present last time. Councilmember Dugo was via phone.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. Okay, so this is second reading tonight for the ISBA, Interlocal Service Boundary Agreement. Agreements are usually done by resolution, as you're aware, but the statute does require that this agreement is done by ordinance and advertised as such. We did the first reading for the ISBA, and we did the first reading for voluntary annexation of the Lake Worth Plaza West parcel on July 18th, 2022. We're having second reading tonight. Then we'll transmit to Palm Beach County, and they will adopt in 2 readings. Once they've adopted, then we will file to bring the annexation before you again to do second reading and adoption of that. Staff does recommend approval of the proposed ISBA through the adoptions of Ordinance 2022-01. Took us a long time to work out all of these issues, so we've reviewed this over and over again, and we're ready to move forward.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the council? All right. I'd like to open up public hearing 2022-01. Anyone wishing to speak in favor or in opposition of the ordinance, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, public hearing is now closed. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve public hearing ordinance 2022-01
Second.
on second reading. Sorry.
We got Councilmember Bousquet. Do I have a second?
Yes.
By Councilmember Dugo. All in favor? Aye.
And amen.
All right, motion carries 5-0. Next item, public hearing on ordinance 2022-19. Can I ask the city clerk to please read the ordinance?
Ordinance 2022-19, second reading, amending Chapter 12, subdivisions and land development regulations, Article 1 in general, by adding Section 12-12, engineering permits, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, severability, inclusion in code, and an effective date.
And good evening. We got Ms. Kara Gardner-Young presenting.
Good evening. Thank you, everybody. Karen Gardner-Young, Zoning Administrator for the City of Green Acres. This is second reading of the zoning text amendment. Basically, it's a creation of a engineering permit process. As stated previously, we've already had it in place, but this is to make it clearer, more friendly oriented, so it specifies exactly what's need to be required. It was already recommended approval by the DRC, also recommended approval by the Planning Zoning Board of Appeals. First reading, it was approved. There were no changes that were requested from first reading of the City Council. We are recommending approval of ZTA 22-15, Ordinance 2022-19. I'm here to answer any questions or comments you may have and ask that everything in the file be included as part of the record.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the council?
None?
All right. Seeing none, now I'd like to open up Ordinance 2022-19 for a public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak in favor or in opposition of the ordinance, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, public hearing is now closed. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to move approval of Ordinance 2022-19 on second reading.
Second.
I've got a motion by Councilmember Diaz, seconded by Councilmember Bousquet. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries 5-0. Item number 6, public hearing ordinance 2022-24. Can I ask the city clerk to please read the ordinance?
Ordinance 2022-24, second reading, amending Chapter 10, Personnel, Article 10 in general to create a new Section 10-1 to be entitled State and National Criminal History Checks for certain municipal employees, to codify requirements for criminal history records checks for personnel in the Department of Fire Rescue, which the governing body of the municipality finds are critical to security or safety, to codify the requirement for criminal history records checks for certain municipal employees and appointees with the City Council of Green Acres, Florida, finds is critical to security or safety, providing for severability, codification, repealed of conflicting ordinances, and an effective date.
Thank you. And this evening we've got our city manager, Andrew McHugh, presenting.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Council. The city currently conducts our background investigations for our fire rescue personnel through the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. We did receive notification that the Federal Bureau of Investigation had advised FDLE that the city can no longer use the current originating agency identification for those background checks. So we need to create a separate originating agency identification so that we can continue to perform the background checks. It's really just a formality, but we needed to bring it before the council for their consideration and approval. The ordinance was approved on first reading at the August 1st, 2022 meeting. Staff is recommending approval of Ordinance 2022-24 on second reading.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the council? All right, seeing none, I'd like to open a public hearing for ordinance 2022-24. Anyone wishing to speak in favor or in opposition to the ordinance, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, public hearing is now closed. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve 2022-24 on the second reading.
Second.
I have an approval by Councilmember Dugo, seconded by Councilmember Diaz. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Next item, public hearing ordinance 2022-15. Can I ask the city clerk to please read the ordinance?
Ordinance 2022-15, first reading, amending Chapter 16, zoning regulations, Article 2, administration, by deleting in its entirety current Division 11, adult entertainment establishments, and adopting a new Division 11 entitled Adult Entertainment Establishment, which shall formally incorporate Palm Beach County's Adult Entertainment Code, and setting forth those specific opt-out provisions from the county's Adult Entertainment Code, providing for severability, preservation, conflicts, codification, and an effective date.
And we have Ms. Karen Gardner-Young presenting again.
Thank you. Thank you, Council. This is first reading in regards to our adult entertainment regulations. It's been a while since we looked at these, and this is constantly being challenged in the courts. So I asked for assistance in order to make sure we were going in the right track. So Alex from our city attorney's law firm is here tonight. He did the hard work, the hard lift. I'm just kind of introducing him. And with that, I will turn it over to Alex.
Good evening, Council. I'm just going to go a little bit into the background, and I know I've spoken with some of you already and kind of given you that. So this is just a general understanding. So what I did is initially, when it was requested, I looked at what was in existence currently for Green Acres. I found that it was missing some essential information, essential regulatory framework. When I did that, I also compared Palm Beach County. Palm Beach County's code is extensive. It's got a lot of regulatory framework, and it is essentially controlling in this jurisdiction. What I mean by that is if there's nothing in conflict, then it is in fact in effect here. Now, because Palm Beach County's ordinance is so extensive in terms of how it regulates adult entertainment, and it has been challenged and it has been upheld, it was advantageous for the city of Green Acres to adopt that. And that is what this ordinance does. It adopts with specificity the Palm Beach County ordinance regarding that. The distinction it does do is I've carved out some important aspects that we thought was important. The one very first important component that was carved out was alcohol and nudity. Palm Beach County's code allows that. What we have done here is we expressly prohibit that. We understand that alcohol and adult entertainment is the mechanism by way which they generate money. So as the council has the legal authority to prevent alcohol sales and nudity, we have carved that out. So that is a prohibition if you were to adopt this. That means you cannot have an adult entertainment establishment and serve, sell, possess any alcoholic beverages on the premises. Secondarily, what we did is we opted out the distance separation requirements. And what I mean by that is there's a distance separation that was presently in effect for the Green Acres. We've continued to embrace that distance separation, but we've went ahead and we've expanded it even further. And that expansion will then also make it that much more difficult for adult entertainment establishments, if there were any to come here, to be essentially one on top of another. They're required to be separated from one another. That's first and foremost. And they're also supposed to be separated from bars and other things like that. One other caveat that we thought was important is we limited as to where they are allowed to go. By law, federal law, I have to allow it somewhere. There's nothing that I can do about that. That is the law as it stands right now. So what we've identified one specific area of the city along Military Trail, and that's the commercial intensive zoning district. It's located throughout the city of Green Acres. But in speaking with staff, it was determined that the best location will be along Military Trail in the commercial intensive zoning district. That is a further limitation of where it is if there was an adult entertainment establishment that would go. We thought that would be the most appropriate location. And so this is what we have so far. The recommendation is to adopt this as it is, and I'll certainly entertain any questions that you may have regarding this.
Thank you. Councilmember Dugo?
One quick question. I know we were talking about limited distances. That includes churches, schools?
That is correct. Yes, I just didn't articulate that, but
I assumed it, but I just wanted to.
Yeah, churches, schools, both secondary and high schools, bars. So when we plotted it, we believed that the distance separation and how it was done was just enough where it was. There will be some places, because I do have to have some places that will do it. But we took another further approach, is that we know that alcohol is the driving force behind these places. The elimination of alcohol, which is within your authority to do, we believe that will essentially stop anyone from really having any interest in putting an adult entertainment establishment. And if they were to be so brazen to do so, I'm not saying that it is or is not, we decided that the commercial intensive along Military Trail is the place that should go.
Councilmember Noble?
You should be congratulated for all the work that you've done. Obviously, did a lot of research. But for the citizens of Green Acres, they should be aware that our border with the county is just right around the corner. And you can put these things up on the other side of the street, and, you know, you're not in Green Acres, but you're just across the street, and we're exposed to that the way our borders are.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments or questions from the council?
Like to make a motion?
Oh, nope, I got to open it up first.
Sorry.
No worries. This time I'd like to open up the public hearing for ordinance 2022-15. Anyone wishing speaking in favor or in opposition of the ordinance, please come forward. State your name and address for the record. Seeing none, public hearing is now closed. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve ordinance 2022-15 on first reading.
Second.
I got a motion by Councilmember Bousquet, second by Councilmember Dugo. All in favor? Aye. All right, motion carries 5-0. Next item up for bid, ordinance 2022-21. Can I ask the city clerk to please read the ordinance?
Ordinance 2022-21, first reading, amending Chapter 16 zoning regulations, Article 7 landscaping, Section 16-1249B6 to clarify when tree removal permits are not required for single-family detached dwelling units in accordance with recently adopted state statutes, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in code, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. And we've got Ms. Karen Gardner-Young again presenting.
Good evening, everybody, again. I'm going to start off by saying this request is because state statute requires us to adopt what's there. I know these are always the worst because everybody's like, why are you bringing it to me since I have no choice anyway? But we still have to go through the process. So I just want to start off with that. So this is in reference to our tree removal permit. As we stated, it is required by state statute. It's actually been effective since July 1st. And what it does is it allows tree removal without permits in certain situations. And we'll talk about those situations. So this new legislation only applies to single-family detached dwellings. So it doesn't apply to common areas. It doesn't apply to condominiums. It doesn't apply to duplexes. It doesn't apply to townhouses. It applies to single-family detached dwellings. It's a little bit of a restriction. Our previous legislation had it applied to duplexes and to, detached and attached, but that's no longer the case. Now that we know what it's applied to, what does it do? This is in reference to when a tree is a danger to a person. And we've had this conversation before. How do you determine that? So under the new legislation, it says if it proposes an unacceptable risk to persons or property, if removal is the only means of practically mitigating its risk below moderate. Okay? But how do you determine it? So it goes to the next line, which says risk is determined by the best management practices, tree risk assessment, second edition, 2017. So that's how an arborist or a landscape architect will determine whether that danger is deemed to be the moderate or the risk, the serious, in which case the person just needs to have that letter from the arborist and they don't need to do anything else. So they don't have to file for a permit. They don't have to file the letter with the city. They just have to have it. So should a code enforcement officer happen to be going by and sees a tree being removed and they're initially going to say, wait, can't do it without a tree removal permit, they pull out the letter from the certified landscape architect or certified arborist, and they're good. Okay? This was brought before the DRC, who recommended approval without comments. It also went to the Planning and Zoning Board of Appeals, which recommended approval without comments. So we are recommending approval of ZTA 2212 through Ordinance 2022-21. I'm here to answer any questions or comments that you may have.
Any comments or questions? Councilmember Dugo.
Hey, you know when it's trees, it's 1-800-DUGO. So here's my question.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if you have a homeowner, trees gone, nothing from an arborist? Do we have the ability to, one, find them, and two, are we going to have them plant another tree of our choice?
So this ordinance wouldn't change the way we're already operating unless it's a single-family home and they have that specific criteria. Otherwise, we go normally. You're not allowed to remove a tree unless you come in for a tree removal permit, and if you don't, then it gets noted to the code enforcement, and they will go out, and then we make a determination if a replacement tree is required or not. Replacement tree is not always required.
Yeah.
So that's a determination once we see the circumstances why the tree was removed, the number of required trees that are already on the property, whether it matches a landscape plan that was approved through the development. So there's different things we take a look at to determine if there's a need for a replacement.
Okay, and you know why I'm asking, because people randomly in townhomes are taking down some beautiful trees.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm
Any
making a motion for this.
Any other comments or questions? All right, do we have a motion?
Yes, motion.
Second. Oh,
Go ahead.
second.
All right, I've got a motion by Councilmember Dugo, seconded by Councilmember Diaz. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, that motion carries 5-0. Next item, ordinance 2022-27. Can I ask the city clerk to please read the ordinance?
Ordinance 2022-27, first reading, adopting Chapter 13, Taxation, Article 4, Additional Homestead Exemption for persons 65 and older, to provide for an additional $5,000 homestead exemption for qualifying persons 65 years of age and older, providing for severability, conflicts, codification, delivery, and an effective date.
And we have our city manager, Andrew McHugh, presenting this evening.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. At the July 18th, 2022 council meeting, staff was directed to prepare an ordinance for the council's consideration to implement this program at the city. A majority of the council supported the $5,000 exemption. The income limit for the 2022 exemption is $32,561. There's currently 533 properties in the city that qualify for this exemption. Should the council approve, the financial impact to the city based on the $5,000 exemption level will be $17,056. The city attorney has actually prepared the ordinance and has reviewed for legal sufficiency. Staff is recommending approval of ordinance 2022-27 on first reading.
Any comments or questions from the council? All right. No. Councilmember Dugo? No?
Well, how do they apply for this?
They apply through the property appraiser's website. There is actually a tab on their website that goes through the process of applying for it. We will provide information to the property appraiser, letting them know that we're participating in the program, and then it really will be up to the resident to apply for that. We will, of course, put information out that the eligibility is there for it, and they can go and apply through the property appraiser's office.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance 2022-27 on first reading.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilmember Noble, seconded by Councilmember Bousquet. All in favor? Aye. All right, motion carries 5-0. Resolution 2022-30. Can I ask the city clerk to please read the resolution?
Resolution 2022-30, repealing Resolution 2021-57 and adopting a schedule of filing fees for matters pertaining to Chapter 12 subdivision and land development regulations and engineering and right-of-way permits, providing for repeal of conflicting resolutions, and providing for an effective date.
And Ms. Karen Gardner-Young presenting.
Thank you again, Council. This is a request in order to amend our fee schedule. This is done through resolution. There are 3 reasons that we're before you tonight. The first one is housekeeping. We changed our land development staff. We changed that name to Development Review Committee. We missed an advertising fee on one of the categories. I think it was the annexation. And then the subdivision fee is actually covered in the plat fee. So this is a housekeeping. The second one is we needed new fees. We recently adopted the engineering permit, the right-of-way permit, so we needed to put some new fees in that. And also, I put in this document that it would allow us to increase the fees according to the cost of living. So if the cost of living increases and staff feels it's appropriate, we don't have to keep coming back to you for the 1 or the 2 or maybe this year 5%, I don't know, increase. So these are the primary goals. Like I said, change the committee name, plat covers the subdivision, We missed the advertisement fee and the annexation, and then to impose the new fees based on the newly adopted ordinances. We are seeking approval of Resolution 2022-30. I am here to answer any questions or comments you would have. Ask that anything in our file be included as part of the public record.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Noble.
Cost of living, obviously we know it's going up, but if it's possible that it goes down, would you go down with your fees as well?
Again, it just gives us the authority to utilize it. We don't have to. So, for example, if the cost of living went up and we didn't want to raise it that high, we don't have to do it. So we could go either way.
If it goes down, you can decide. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
The ordinance says any increases, you have the ability, the department, to determine that. But decreases, you would have to.
We would have to, and let me clarify,
council.
Councilmember Noble, you are absolutely correct. So the question is, does this talk about decreasing if the cost of living? It doesn't. It only talks about increasing, because very few times do I have a cost of living that is less, okay? So I don't think the situation will happen, but if we wanted to reduce the fees, we would be coming back to the council for your permission to reduce it. This only allows us administratively to go up to a certain amount, and we clarified what we're using as the nature for the cost of living increase.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, can I ask for a motion?
Motion.
I got a motion by Councilmember Dugo.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Diaz. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. All right, we have removed agenda items 11 and 12. There are no discussion items for this evening. Bless you.
Bless you.
So comments from the public on non-agenda items. Anybody in the public wishing to speak, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. All right, seeing none, we're moving on to City Manager's report.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I do have a couple of updates on just some upcoming events, but one item that I did need to discuss with the council. We did receive notice from Palm Beach County last week after the due date for agenda items, so unfortunately we could not get it on for the council meeting this evening, but it is it's as a result of a notice of funding opportunity that the county issued for the fiscal year 2023, and it is for funding in support of our youth program, specifically our teen program. The county is awarding the city $77,000 a year, $77,000 a year, I believe, for 3 years. So I'm just asking for the council to approve us executing that document. We will bring it back before the council for final ratification, but the county needs it by the 29th of August. So I would ask that the council allow us to move forward to get it back to the county so that we can have that all in place for the county commission's approval, and then we will bring it back on the 14th for final adoption.
So let's pause there. Can I ask for a consensus? I'm going to vote yes. Councilmember Noble?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Dugo? Councilmember Diaz?
Yes.
Councilmember Busquet? All right, we have consensus.
Thank you very much. That will be on the September 14th agenda formally, so for the councils to then vote on again. Additionally, there's just a couple of items coming up. Our next community conversation regarding the opioid epidemic awareness is going to be on the 31st of August from 6:30 to 8 at the community center. In partnership with the United Way, we will be doing an event on 9/11. It is a disaster preparedness training street fair on 9/11 from 9 to 11 at the community center as well. And then also our September community conversation is regarding gender-based violence. That is going to be on September the 14th from 6:30 to 8. So Wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that. Just as a reminder, with school back in, we do get a decent amount of students that attend these community conversations. They do get community hours for them. So please, if you know students that are looking for community hours, and then also they will get some really good information. We have really good speakers that attend these conversations, and they're very beneficial. So that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney's report?
I do not have a report tonight. Thank you.
All right, Mayor and Council reports. I'm going to start all the way down to my left. Councilmember Bousquet,
I have nothing, thank you.
Councilmember Diaz,
I just want to congratulate the city and Ally on a very successful back-to-school event a couple weeks ago.
Councilmember Dugo,
Oh, gosh. Well, I have a couple things. Listening to the last meeting, okay, I really would like the council to re-review the question as to whether the council chambers should be used for campaigning. I think if you ask other cities that this council, this room is for city business, and I would just like that to come up again for discussion. And there was something else that I wasn't sure about. I listened to the meeting. I wasn't there at that particular meeting, which spoke about the developer and a CDD community. And when I went to my mail slot, I found, I don't know where it came from, and it was dated July 7th, and it was an article from Mike Diamond about CDD communities. Now, I don't know enough about it. I would have liked the developer to give us names of communities. I would have liked to have known before I voted yes or no a little bit more about that, and I was just wondering if there was any way we could bring it back and get more information. I know this is a development that's going to go in our city. I really would, I was just concerned about that, listening to it, and that was it. I do have a question for the city manager, but I'll wait till the reports are
absolutely
done.
no.
Ms. McHugh, is the Historical Society still, I don't know if the word is in business, are they still functioning?
They are still located at 301 Swain. It's my understanding that they are not currently open. They are only open by appointment. In conversations that I've had with their current, I'm not really sure if he's the president or the acting president, but their current president, I know that they don't have an established board either. The board, I don't believe the board is meeting. So at this time right now, I don't know that there's much going on over there.
Don't documents require them to have meetings and a board? I mean, I don't know if you could check into it.
Yeah, I can. We'll take a look at their bylaws. Yep, we'll take a look at their bylaws.
I have a comment about that. They have a 501c3 that may be useful to us in the future, so I'd be leery about dissolving them at the moment.
Well, I'm not.
Yeah, no, I understand.
I don't know if they're even in existence, if they're open.
They are. They are, and I think that the acting president has had some health issues, and so he's doing the best he can.
Do they have a board like they used to have?
I don't know. I'm really not that involved with them.
I'm not.
So it's a good question, but I just wanted us all to keep that in mind.
Okay.
If I may jump in just real quick on Sunbiz, which is Division of Corporations for Florida, the Green Acres Historical Society Incorporated is an active corporation in Florida, which means they've filed their report for this past year. They do have listed Brett Brown as their president, along with him as treasurer as well. So they are active in terms of a corporate status.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to file and pay that fee, and you're active. So.
Well, it shows something.
It doesn't mean.
No, you're correct. You're absolutely correct. I just wanted to add that so everybody's on the same page in terms of their corporate status.
Thank you. I'm
Anything
done.
else?
I'm
All right.
set. Thank you.
Yep, Councilmember Noble.
I know we're not supposed to discuss things at this point, but certainly the problem in the past was staff for that entity. And so when you get involved in it, you need people, qualified people who will attend meetings and whatnot. In addition to that, I think the location is too small, and we should consider, if we're going to discuss that issue, we should discuss maybe a larger location. And Brent Brown is the person that we would have to talk to. Again, not to take issue with your comments, Mr. Dugo, but the CDD issue was killed. We voted no. I don't think we should bring it up again. I think it's a dead issue. I don't know how you bring it back to life, but everyone was emphatic about it, and there was not in favor of it.
Thank you, I agree.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Noble?
If I may, Deputy Mayor, there was the other item of the campaigning within the chambers. Is that something that should go back on for a discussion item? I can defer to our city attorney as to whether or not, I know it was discussed at length at the last meeting. Does that come on? Is it able to come on? Just based on the status from the last meeting, I just wasn't sure.
If I may make a comment, I thought the way Mayor Flores put it, you can't stop people to bring up an issue. So if it comes up, there's not much we can do about it. But, if we want to make it a point that this should not be brought up, there's not much you can do about it if people bring it up.
So let's defer to the city attorney, because it was voted no as a discussion item. So how would we proceed if we want to?
So if there was consensus to bring it back, it could be put back as a discussion item. Was it a vote or did we have consensus? I thought consensus not to move forward.
I think it was consensus, yes.
Right. So if we had actually taken a vote, then it would be under our rules of order a motion to reconsider, which is a timing issue and have to be made by people who are on the prevailing side of the motion. If it was just by consensus, you could ask for consensus to bring it back as another discussion item. Part of the issue with a campaign-free zone is your current rules for public participation would need to be more strictly enforced in terms of making sure that people are bringing forth comments on policy decisions, because under your current rules, the public comment on non-agenda items is supposed to bring to the council comments on issues with policy considerations. Since it's not really enforced and there's more leeway given, then obviously there is a concern if you create a campaign-free zone, that would also have to be enforced because you want to make sure you're enforcing all your rules fairly. So that would be part of that discussion if there's consensus to bring it back.
So I'm sorry.
Ms. Dugo?
Okay. So whenever, 8, 10, 12 years ago, I can't even remember, I was not supposed to campaign, walk in here with a Vote Dugo t-shirt, and none of us were supposed to. The only people that could speak here were about policies and issues regarding our city. And what is important with our city. So when you are allowing, commissioners, judges, people coming in, they're using our place of business for their own personal campaign. I think that's where we need to draw the line. I know that the mayor said that he recognizes freedom of speech. That's another issue I have. I don't believe that losers had the right to I don't think any of us should be attacked on this floor, but that's a different issue. I think we should look at what other cities allow regarding the business that's conducted in their chambers.
All right. So if memory serves, the consensus for that Councilmember Bousquet brought up for a campaign-free zone was defeated 3-1, I believe. So do we, I guess first question, do we want consensus to bring that back as a discussion item?
I hope.
For the next meeting? So let's get the first consensus on, do we want to readdress the campaign-free zone?
I'd like to make a comment before you vote.
Councilmember Noble.
Just to point out, not to make an issue about visiting legislators coming here. One of the benefits for us is to meet personally a legislator that represents an area and maybe hear his comments. So I know it could looked upon, and probably is, a reason for supporting their being reelected, if that may be an issue. But I think we do have to allow for these people of some importance to come in and let us know who they are, and we get to know who they are personally.
May I?
Councilmember Bousquet.
I don't think that would preclude them from doing that because they're reporting to us things that are in the best interest of the city or not, from Tallahassee, from the commission. So I don't think that should be part of the conversation, but I could be wrong.
I agree with you.
Well, let's go back. Let's get a consensus. Do we want to bring up for a discussion item at the next meeting the campaign-free zone? Councilmember Bousquet.
Yes, of course.
I'm going to go left to right. It's easier.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Bousquet?
Yes.
Councilmember Diaz.
I had a comment first.
Sure.
Which was, I think, though, if we are revisiting it, what I think needs to be looked at, too, is I know that our city's campaign handbook very clearly states that if you are running for a city position, that you are not to campaign on city property. Because I remember reading that. Correct. So am I incorrect on that one, Quinn?
I think there's a clarification. There's a Florida statute, and I believe it's regarding asking for campaign donations within a governmental facility. Campaigning, like if you showed up with a T-shirt, different, it would be allowed, but as soon as you ask for donations to your campaign, that's prohibited by statute.
Well, I misinterpreted it when I read it because I thought it was off limits. But I think for the sake of clarification, yes, I'd be in favor of revisiting.
All right. Councilmember Dugo?
Revisiting, and then hopefully we can come up with a procedure.
Yes.
What we can do and can't do, right?
Councilmember Noble?
I am definitely against bringing it up. There's so many variations to this issue. We'll be talking about it for a week. So I think we already covered what was important, and I would just allow the issue to rest as we have agreed to it.
All right. I am also going to say no. It's 3 minutes. I think we should listen to anybody. If somebody wants to come, whether they're running for a judge or anything for the county, I encourage any candidate to come out and introduce themselves. So for that reason, I would be a no, but the motion, the consensus is a yes to add this to as a discussion item for the next meeting.
That's 3-2, is that
3-2, yes. All right. Can I go into my report now?
Yep.
Okay. Councilmember report. So I got the chance to head out and meet our lemonade salesperson, Allie. All I can say, amazing young woman. She's got the passion. I hope it inspires more people to get out and do something. And one simple thing that she started, and she wanted to help people. And I think it's great that you get to see, you don't know how you impact people's lives. And I think it was just great to see. And that's all that I have. So do I have a motion to adjourn? Do I have a second?
Microphone on. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Meeting adjourned.